Good afternoon. Earlier today, Florida's CFO held a news conference to address Orange County's fiscal management. Mayor Jerry L. Demings is here, and he will address some of the statements made by the CFO. Mayor?
All right, thank you, Jane. Good afternoon to all of you. I do find myself here in this position once again having to respond to some comments that have been made by a senior elected official here in the state of Florida that is once again attacking Orange County, attacking local government. But I do say this to all of you today. I do find the performance of the CFO very interesting. I want to kind of set the record straight. He made some comments and said some things that factually just were not true. In the CFO's comments earlier today, he made the statement that almost all of Florida's local government budgets have increased 60 to 100% over the past 4 or 5 years. I will point out that according to the state's website, there were 48 of Florida's 67 counties that had ad valorem tax increases higher than Orange County's rate that averaged 9% over the last 4 to 5 years. I will point out to you also that this occurs at a time in which our population has grown in the past 5 years by 125,488 using the Bureau of Economic and Business Research, or the BEBA report, published by the state of Florida. This is the state's revised published numbers, not the 79,047 reported by the CFO. Our budget increases are not purely related to the increase in population, but inflation. Things today cost more than they did 4 years ago, including, I would add, the state has increased the costs that they charge the local counties for public pensions and benefits. In addition, I remind you that we are the #1 tourist destination in North America. That is significant. Why is it significant? Because in 2024, our visitation of 75.3 million tourists with an economic impact of $94.5 billion, according to Visit Orlando. This means that in addition to our permanent resident population, we must provide services for an additional 206,000 people each day within our community. There is no other local government in Florida with that type of impact on services. According to our numbers, our general fund increased by $474 million and not $559 million as stated by the CFO. In other words, he used some fuzzy math in his discussions earlier today. What I want our residents to know is that your local government has been responsive to the needs of this community. I want them to know that our taxes remain relatively low and we pay our employees what they deserve. Of the 661 new positions identified by the CFO, 333 of them were indeed public safety. He didn't say that in his comments. He indicated that Orange County is overpaying its employees and not paying for public safety. What did I just say to you? That of the 661 new positions, 333 of them were for public safety. Only about 100 of them are general classified employees. In the last 4 years, Orange County employee salaries for regular staff increased by 16%, or 4% per year. We are currently in negotiations with the fire union for significant increases in the bargaining unit pay. They receive 12% in 3 years, or 4% per year. And currently, we have a 25% increase on the table that is pending for our firefighters, which would equate to, if the union signs off on it, 37% in 4 years. We funded the sheriff's office pay increase to 41.5% in the last 5 years. So we are investing heavily in public safety and paying our first responders a very competitive wage. The CFO indicated that the bureaucrats in local government are paying 7 to 8 times more than the raises of Orange County residents working for the state of Florida. But everyone knows that the state of Florida does not pay its line workers well. It surely pays the bureaucrats well. Just look at the salary of the Secretary of Health, the Surgeon General for the state of Florida. But then go look at the line staff members. Look at what the state of Florida is paying for its law enforcement officers, those troopers who patrol the streets. As a former law enforcement officer, a former sheriff, a former chief of police, a former public safety director, what I can tell you is this: it is well known amongst those of us who truly have served in those capacities that the corrections and prison guards don't make what they should make in the state of Florida. It is well known that the troopers are some of the lowest paid law enforcement officers in the state of Florida. Now, the CFO has some law enforcement officers that work for him. Go pull the pay of the CFO's law enforcement officers and compare it to many of these local law enforcement agencies. You'll probably see something very startling. How do I know? I engage in conversations with troopers all the time whenever I see them. And I can tell you that they're underpaid. What I'm saying here is that the CFO ought to get his own house in order first before he starts looking in someone else's house. Orange County, I've made a commitment in the last nearly 45 years of public service to make certain that we pay first responders and public safety officers what they deserve to make. So we're not running away from what we pay our staff here in Orange County. I'm going to suggest that the state of Florida needs to pay its employees better than they pay their own employees. They are some of the lowest paid workers in the state of Florida. Now, let me shift gears a little bit here, because the CFO talked about what the state of Florida residents are tired of. This is what the state of Florida residents are tired of. They're sick and tired of the state of Florida not taking care of its residents. The state has done nothing to address the high cost of property insurance. They have done nothing to address the high cost of housing in this state. They have done nothing to address the high cost of health care here in the state of Florida. They have done nothing or very little to address the issues that local governments wrestle with in terms of dealing with homelessness. They've left us to ourselves to figure it all out. They passed laws to mandate that we have to address it, but they have brought no significant money to the table for the solutions. We've had to fight for ourselves and fend for ourselves as local communities. Here's what the residents of the state of Florida are sick and tired of. They're sick and tired of those bureaucrats in Tallahassee dividing us along political lines. The rhetoric that you heard today is simply political. It has little to do with Orange County and Orange County government and whether we are working efficiently or not. They suggested that we could reduce our taxation and our budget by $200 million. On an $8.2 billion budget, that's a 2.4% decrease. I can tell you today, even with $8.2 billion, it simply is not enough to solve the myriad of issues that we have as a local government. If the state really cared about us here at the local level, they would sit down and talk to us like decent folk would do. Rather than issue subpoenas, they could have just simply come and had a conversation with us. No, they wanted to be heavy-handed. They wanted to perform before the cameras. That's what the residents of Florida are sick and tired of. They want people in office who are going to take care of the people of this state. They want people in Tallahassee to take care of the least of those in this community. Rather than worrying about the color in a crosswalk, they want us to solve the issues with homelessness. They want us to solve the issues with high cost of housing. Here in Orange County, we're trying to do something about that. We created our own locally controlled housing trust fund going back to 2019. Why? Because we got little help from the state of Florida. And because we are taking money from our general fund to help reduce the high cost of housing, I say to you, that's money well spent. Well spent. We are using those dollars to put people in homes who are homeless. I say to you, that's money that is well spent. Yes, we have increased the pay of our employees here within Orange County, and we're going to keep doing that when we can afford to do so. In these past few years, we could afford to pay our people better, and we have done that. I wish the state of Florida will follow us in that regard. We've dealt with some tough issues in our community. We've dealt with a global pandemic. We didn't get a lot of help, quite frankly, from the state of Florida. We were left to our own local devices to deal with those issues. You saw us every day dealing with it here. That's what Orange County has been doing with the money, with the people's money. We've been spending it on the people. So I defend that any day. Thank you so much for at least indulging me for a few moments to address the issues. I'm only going to take 2 questions, and then I got to be somewhere else to give a speech. I didn't create the timeline. It was created for me. It just wanted me trying to address all these issues. So I'm going to take 2 questions.
2 questions. Oh, my God. I just want to know, first of all, Mayor, where they got these numbers from, then if you're saying that that's not the right ones, and have you officially announced that you're running for governor? Okay.
If I had announced that I was officially running for governor, I would have had a big announcement. That hadn't happened yet, okay? I'm not saying that I'm not going to run for governor. Given these things that's been happening, I just might do that. Now, where did they get the numbers from? I can't tell you where they got the numbers from, because if they had sat down with us, we would have pointed them in the right direction of what the real numbers were. In some cases, we would have pointed them to their own website. So where they got the numbers from, I don't know. All right. One last question.
She took my question, Mayor, about the governor, but no, you're not getting off.
Thank y'all
that
very
easy.
much.
Are you concerned about what will happen if you guys just can't get on the same page here?
You know, government works best when those at the federal level work with the state, and those at the state work with the local governments. We're supposed to be the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for everyone. That's who we're supposed to be. But these yahoos in Tallahassee are creating this divide. They're not even coming down, sitting down and civilly talking to us. They call a press conference and rail against us and espouse a bunch of mistruths, misconceptions about reality. That's all I can tell you. I just wish that has to stop. Thank you all so much.